Hello and welcome to this episode of Focus On with me, Kiamakgetso Mosepele. Today we are at the 10th edition of the Southern African Europe CEO Dialogue. This is an annual dialogue that fosters in-depth interaction between the EU and Southern Africa. We'll be speaking to a number of stakeholders on their opinion on the future of business on the continent, as well as strengthening Africa's investment case. MEC, how is the Gauteng government using the CEO Dialogue to grow investment?
Thanks so much. It's an opportunity for Gauteng to be able to showcase what we have to offer from a value proposition point of view. So of course, yes, we are the most populous and therefore skills and the types of skills that are available here are not necessarily available anywhere else in the country. We also have the most services as well as the most sectors here. We also boast the biggest dry port here in South Africa and for goods, clearing of goods, etc. I think it also gives us an opportunity to be able to share with the CEOs and the European Union what our growth plans are, especially as it relates to the special economic zones, what our regional development plans are, and so that's how we're using it.
Now the journey from AGOA, BRICS, and now the CEO Dialogue, a number of trade forums coming together to strengthen trade. What is your opinion on the outlook for African business?
Well, definitely, I think African business as a whole is poised to be the new frontier for global business. We are a 1.4 billion population as a whole, thereabout, and I think and it's a young population, so the average median age of Africa now is 16 years old. That poses a huge opportunity for new business, new innovations, new technologies, but also the fact that Africa will really be the new consumer platform of any type of goods and services. So anybody in the world who's looking to develop new products, for export, the export market will definitely be Africa. But I think also we have the ability to be able to produce new technologies, like I said, new products for export into other global markets.
Can you just tell us about the new launch of the VAL SEZ and what it aims to achieve?
Yes, so the VAL SEZ is our third SEZ in the province that is going to become operational quite soon. It's really about revitalizing the VAL area in our province. That area was built on the back of industries and huge industrialization. A lot of deindustrialization has taken place over time. So we're looking to reindustrialize. Part of it is going to have green technology and green energy companies, so manufacturing for export, such as clean hydrogen, for an example. There's also private sector developments, Vaal River City, so that's a new multi-tier, multi-use, mixed-use development backed by the private sector. And it's going to resuscitate tourism because, of course, we're going to revitalize the Vaal River itself. The SEZ, we definitely have now focused on inviting, and we've got confirmed investors in the green energy space, in the green technology, and we're looking to get them on the ground as soon as possible.
Now, considering 2023 showed significant levels of trade between Southern Africa and Europe, how is GGDA positioned in the space?
Thank you. Our focus really is that, of course, we're a significant part that contributes into this trade. More than 22% of it comes from Gauteng, largely automotive, other manufacturing sectors, capital equipment, and a few agricultural products. But we want that to also benefit medium and small-sized businesses. So a lot of our focus is how we get this trade to have real economic development benefits.
And what is GGDA's strategy in terms of positioning itself for global attractiveness?
The first one is that, of course, we have to be competitive in these markets. We have a short-term advantage now of the exchange rate that benefits us on exporting into Europe. But what we've also been doing, as I'm saying, on the medium-sized businesses and some of the smaller businesses, is to put them on training initiatives that they can comply. let's take the automotive sector. We have a lot of original equipment manufacturers that are based in South Africa, but a lot of their supply chains are either not decided here or don't benefit medium and small sized businesses, and we've been developing them to be competitive and comply with whatever the requirements are.
Now, your primary focus is Gauteng, the economic hub of South Africa. What are some of the investment opportunities you're hoping to leverage through today's CEO dialogue?
Well, manufacturing is our natural advantage, so we are having a lot of focus on that. But services is also another growth area. If you look at tourism, there's a lot of growth potential. If you look at arts and culture, there's a lot of growth potential. Business process services is another area we've been looking at where they can bring their back office admin services into South Africa, and we like call centers, legal services, accounting services, and many others. So those would be what in the immediate we're focused on as growth areas.
Considering the recent launch of the VAL SEZ, can you just share some of the initiatives happening there, but as well as its unique offering compared to other SEZs?
So the VAL SEZ is our special economic zone that is based in the southern corridor, and we'll be launching tomorrow. But they are a critical speaker in today's dialogue. And the purpose of the VAL SEZ is really to crowd in foreign direct investment, particularly in green energy, and provide energy solutions as well as advanced manufacturing in the southern corridor of the Gauteng city region. You bear in mind that the Gauteng city region is launching multiple special economic zones. After the VAL SEZ, we will be launching a West Rand special economic zone. We already have a special economic zone at the Aura Tambo precinct, the Aura Tambo SEZ, as well as the Tshwane special economic zone, which is focused in the auto sector.
Now, how is the VAL SEZ competing dollar for dollar with the number of SEZs you've just mentioned?
Yeah, so dollar for dollar, it's still not fair because it's only being launched tomorrow. But what we have done, which is very first for an SEZ being launched, is we already have in excess of 4 billion rand worth of commitments, which is way above where other SEZs are, even those that already have been launched. So it's performing very, very strongly, and we're quite excited for the future of the Southern Corridor through the VAL SEZ.
Speaking to the Global Attractiveness Index for Africa, South Africa has come out on top. Now, what are the reasons as to why we have been on this winning streak, but more so, what can we do to maintain our position?
We are fortunate not just because I'm a nation brand custodian, but I think because we are one of the luckiest countries with a diverse economy basket. I touched on the fact that we have vast resources. When you speak of manufacturing, when you speak of the mining sector, for instance, those are the areas that continues to contribute towards our GDP. The services industry is also amongst the growing I would say contributor to the economy. If you look at the tourism, there's just so much story to tell about South Africa. Using out of my head now the framework that we often use when we look at the 6 dimensions that shape the reputation of countries. From an export perspective, we are doing remarkably well. In fact, the Bloom reputation study told us that South Africa, you are doing sterling job in as far as exports. You need to communicate more of the things that you export, such as in the automobile sector and what we do there.
Now, speaking to South Africa's investment case as it walks the line between the two competing powers, what does this mean for Brand South Africa, and what are some of the strategies you have been implementing in this way?
I think our strategy as a country, and I'm talking from a nation brand perspective, is to master the art of using your competitive advantages and master it very well so that you use that as your positioning tool while you address your weaknesses. And as far as the powerhouses are concerned, we've just hosted AGOA, and that was hosted wonderfully and brilliantly so. Again, it's South Africa at the forefront, also bringing in the issues around the development of the broader African continent, which is why it's pertinent that we continue to stay true to the better world, a better Africa, because by de facto we have positioned ourselves as a country that is more purposeful rather than a transactional country. We try and we thrive to ensure that we tell our story completely, that ours is to shape the environment and influence how the development of the African agenda is going to transpire. That's why you saw also recently with the G20 how we were instrumental in, for instance, negotiating that AU becomes a member. Why? The African voice is very important, and it never is about South Africa. So when you even look at the fact that we hosted successfully BRICS, and it was a defining moment because it was at the BRICS that took place here in South Africa where there was also an expansion.
I'd just like you to share some of your perspectives on the development of the agro industry in the SADC region.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the opportunity. I think the agri environment and sector in Africa is of utmost importance for a couple of reasons. It is absolutely the majority provider from an employment perspective. The figures range anything between 80 to 86%, but it's also home to the world's largest arable land. 60% of Africa is arable land, so it's a wonderful opportunity for us. Equally as important is it's an enormous opportunity for our SMEs. We know that SMEs are also the largest provider of employment opportunities on the continent. And then last but not least is certainly where the world finds itself now and the need to feed the world. So it's a wonderful opportunity for Africa, and hence the importance of the agri sector within SSA.
So we understand that the agriculture industry is a big contributor for South Africa's GP, but as well as Africa, it's a number of employment on the African continent. Just speaking on some of the trends you've experienced within the export market in Africa.
Yeah, so again, I can give you a number of statistics, but I think a few that stands out to me is the fact that it contributes 17% of the GDP. It's the biggest contributor. But equally, there are some challenges. If we look at the food wastage, that alone, 2020 or 21 ran to about $4 billion. That is enormous. But it also then leads us to the opportunities in the technology and the infrastructure sector. And if we can get the policies to support that, there's an enormous opportunity for us to take the agricultural sector and help to, through the agricultural sector and the SMEs, help this continent trade its way to the wealth that it needs to be at.
Now, a number of issues are kind of incumbent of your industry, such as logistical bottlenecks, and a number of issues with trade barriers. What are some of the ways you're going about eradicating those issues?
Well, I think there are two major ones. The one is the thought leadership that DHL provides and our involvement in helping to shape policies around the continent, particularly for the African Free Trade Agreement. It's a wonderful mechanism to unlock trade on the African continent, so that's the one. And the other one is we have programs that are dedicated to the upliftment of SMEs within the agricultural sector, which is called our Go Trade program. And there are two elements to it. The one is to actually just connect economies and thereby connecting people across economies, and of course it's to provide education in that sector. Education is an enormous stumbling block for us at the moment. If we can lift the levels of education, particularly to the agricultural sector, there's a wonderful opportunity to unlock the potential.
And that's how we wrap up the conversation at the Southern African Europe CEO Dialogue. From myself, Gauteng Provincial, it's goodbye for now.